So this is my girlfriend Megan, and I'm traveling over 7,000 miles to propose to her in one of the most beautiful places on earth, El Nido, Palawan. But let's rewind a little bit because I want to share with you guys our story. So our story begins with a chance encounter on Instagram. We connected through a mutual friend, and after Megan followed me on Instagram, I noticed that her most recent post was a video of her squatting at a squat rack in my hometown. I reached out because there's not many people who know of that hometown or let alone is from that hometown. And so we immediately started bonding over social media, over fitness, and where we grew up. So at the time, we were actually both in relationships. So the connection was actually just mutually friendly and bonding over things we had in common. However, as fate would have it, we both found ourselves single later that year. So for New Year's Eve, I was actually planning a pre-game party at my downtown apartment in San Diego, and we were gonna go to a rave called OMFG. And I was already inviting people, so I figured I might as well invite Megan too, and not miss the opportunity to meet her in real life. That night we met, the connection was instantaneous. We didn't leave each other's side the entire night, and we spent the entire night bonding and talking over things we had in common. We shared interests in movies and TV shows and our thought processes and music. Everything just clicked and aligned. So at the time, the night was ending and we were walking back to our cars about 5 in the morning. We got a little serious and asked what the next step was gonna be. Now, I was from San Diego, she was living in LA, and I wanted to see her again, but I just didn't know what her head was at. I also knew what I wanted, and I knew that I wanted to get to know her better because I date with a purpose. And surprisingly, Megan felt the exact same way. So that night, after meeting each other for less than 24 hours, we had committed to being in a relationship with each other. Now, some people might think it's crazy to jump into relationships so quick, but Megan was the very first person to meet me exactly where I was. There's no games, no chasing, just commitment. We were both all in from the start. About 5 days after Megan and I met, I had a trip planned to spend 2 weeks in Australia. We met each other, we committed to each other, and then 5 days later, I was in Australia for 2 weeks, and it was the first test of our relationship. Even while I was away, I couldn't stop thinking about getting back home to Megan, and she also granted me the freedom of being able to enjoy my time there, which was amazing. So we had plans to travel, build our businesses, work out together, create content. Very shortly after I returned from Australia, COVID lockdowns happened and we were locked in together. So there was a few short months of traveling back and forth. I'd spend a weekend in LA, she'd spend a weekend in San Diego, but very shortly after, about 2 months into the relationship, COVID lockdowns happened and she didn't want to go home. And frankly, I didn't want her to go back to LA either. That quickly into a relationship, we decided that we were going to move in together. So during that time, we drank a lot of wine, we worked out on our balcony, and we both built our businesses from home. We also got our very first puppy, Choops, which allowed us to see different sides of each other for caring for something else other than ourselves. And our relationship was tested again early on when our puppy fell sick to distemper about 2 months after we got her. And distemper is a neurological disease that eventually led us to have to put her down. So that was a real road bump in our relationship, but it did make us stronger at the end. So despite the hardship, a few months later, we found a new puppy, a German Shepherd that we named Sozin, and we continued to grow our little family together. The next 2 years are spent traveling together, making memories, having fun. We went to raves, we went to concerts, we went camping. We did so much together. And looking back over the last 3 years, it's been amazing to see how much we've grown together. When we first met, Megan was just starting her fitness coaching business, Monarch, and I was just starting P2BI. And together, we were able to scale both of our businesses and help countless people achieve their goals. Megan's company started with her in our bedroom during COVID and is now scaled to multiple 6 figures while having 5 coaches on their team helping thousands of women. And P2BI has scaled to over 7 figures in revenue and has helped hundreds of fitness coaches start their online coaching business. We've built our dream lives together and have truly become partners in crime or injustice. So about a year and a half into our relationship, I had a moment with Megan where I knew that she was the person that I wanted to marry. A lot of my friends were getting engaged. I asked them how they bought their ring. They connected me with a jeweler that allowed me to build a custom ring for Megan, which was pretty much exactly what she wanted. I held on to it. I was originally going to plan to propose to her in the Philippines, and I bought the ring in the summer 2021. It was July 2021. I was going to propose to her in February 2022 in the Philippines, but when December came around, she decided that she wanted to do a bodybuilding competition, which pretty much grounded us for the whole year from traveling, since she was going to be locked in during prep for 6 months. So instead of proposing to her when I initially planned, I decided that it was best for me to wait an entire year after the initial plan. So I held on to the ring for a year and a half. Despite having to push back the proposal date, it actually worked for the better because she was able to excel in her bodybuilding career, really leave a mark her first round, win summer shredding, get a sponsorship from Alphalete, and achieve so much more. Fast forward to a couple months ago, we're traveling over 7,000 miles to arrive in El Nido, Palawan, which is located in the Philippines. So we arrived in the Philippines on a Tuesday, and I knew that I wanted to propose to Megan pretty quickly. She had a feeling that I was going to propose at some point on the trip, but I wanted to keep her guessing. My friends insisted on being included in the proposal, so we decided to rent a boat and have a tour of all of the beautiful islands in El Nido. So my original plan was to actually propose to Megan on the third stop of the tour, which is called Shimizu Island. But when we arrived, the island was so crowded that we couldn't even pull up and dock. The captain suggested that we head to a spot called Big Lagoon, where he knew of a secret spot that would be perfect for the proposal. So we pull up to the Big Lagoon. I realized very quickly that there's no beach. We dropped the anchor over a reef, and he tells us to get into a kayak, and we have to go from the boat to a kayak, which means I'm taking the ring with me in my pocket. But when I'm looking around, I don't see anywhere we can, stand or, propose. And he pointed to a little spot in a cove where he said the water was waist deep, and he said, if you get out of the kayaks, you can do it there. So at that point, I knew that I was taking the ring with me in the water, and we were going to have to do a water proposal. We eventually all kayaked to this little spot, and all of my friends are aware that this is a spot where I'm going to propose, and Megan has no idea. And I think the reason why she has no idea is because she was expecting something a little bit more formal. She wasn't expecting to be proposed to in a kayak in waist deep water on the middle of our boat tour day. So when I asked her to get out of the kayak so we can take some pictures, she was hesitant. She's like, why are we taking pictures here? Why don't we go to this other spot? Why are we getting out? Why? And I had to remain patient and tell her that, I just want some photos. I think this would be a great spot. And for every objection, I had to handle it with, just get out of the kayak. Come on, get out of the kayak. And so she eventually gets out of the kayak. She's taking photos. I'm letting her, get some content for herself so she doesn't think anything suspicious, even though all of my friends are lined up around her with their phones out like this. And I was like, you guys cannot be more obvious right now. But I jump in to join pictures. I pick her up on my waist. And, after sharing a moment, I said, are you ready? And she said, sure. And I pulled out the ring and I proposed, and she said yes. And the funny thing is, I didn't even ask her to marry me until later that night because I was just so caught up in the moment and wanting to get it done that we just did it that way. So it didn't go according to the original plan, but it honestly went better than I ever could have imagined. The photos are amazing. The location was amazing. The people we were with was amazing. And I think that, it really made her day. So our love has evolved through distance, through adversity, and over time. And I'm very excited to start this new chapter with her. So now that we're engaged and we're back from the Philippines, Megan and I have agreed to really focus on spending the next few years together. My thought process is you're only engaged once, so might as well enjoy it. So Megan and I are not in a rush to get married. We were excited to take that next step. We're not quite ready for marriage yet, so we're going to enjoy being engaged for couple years. This period of our time is going to be focused on building our business, spending time with our dog Sozin, and traveling as much as possible. And that's our love story. Through the highs and lows, we faced every challenge that we've come across head on and overcome them together and grown stronger as a couple. Thank you guys for joining me on this journey, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. Peace.